Now, what is
Yeah.
what is the biggest mistake you see screenwriters make, first-time screenwriters make, when they're writing a screenplay?
I So I always have a hard time. A few people ask me like, what are general mistakes that generally people make? I don't know, but I can tell you a lot of mistakes I made
Okay.
at the beginning. And the biggest thing was like I started out coming from kind of a literary tradition. Like I wanted to be a novelist when I was younger. And so, just like, I'm sure like you and like a lot of people, I would started out reading the novels, falling in love with King when I was, 12, 13
Oh,
years old.
yeah.
And then, graduating to more sophisticated, complex literature and stuff. And so when I started writing screenplays for the first time, of course, I wanted to be literary. I wanted it to be poetic and have all these like beautiful metaphors and stuff. And I didn't understand that was largely like, that's not the job of a screenplay. The job is to be cinematic, and it's allowing the imageries to be the poetry. And that was a difficult process for me to go through. Was like, and the biggest thing was, reading scripts that are cinematic help you break through those kind of notions. These ideas of kind of, I want my script to be read like a novel. It's not really the function of the script. I mean, sure you can. I mean, you read like Tarantino stuff and it does read like a novel and it's beautiful and it's fun.
But there's one Tarantino. There's not many
one
guys.
Tarantino, and I do think that there are a lot of great. I believe there's an ocean of undiscovered talent out there, and unresolved talent.
Absolutely.
We're all, busting our asses to make the best art that we can. And there's a lot of unrecognized talent. But ultimately, it comes down to right now there are certain norms that until you are Tarantino, you need to persuade people. You need to sell yourself.
Right.
Which means you need to give the best presentation that's going to persuade people to invest the time and have the vision, whatever that takes. And, learning the conventions of storytelling, learning the conventions of screenwriting helps you. But ultimately, it's not – you shouldn't be enslaved by it. If you have a truly original idea and it works, you're going to find a way to communicate it.
Yeah, that's excellent, and I do think that is a mistake that I did. I made that mistake too when I first started writing screenplays. I was just like, I want this. Like every description was this beautiful, artistic, using 50-cent words constantly, and everyone was like, oh, look how great I am because I was able to do this, and then, well, there's no conflict, there's no this, there's no that, and I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't want to read this. It's too hard to read.
One thing that was a big breakthrough for me was reading Hemingway.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, he's a novelist, but, like, when you read his stuff, I was completely shocked just reading, like, he would use the simplest, plain spoken words, and it still managed to build this kind of sense of anxiety or tension or fear or infatuation. And he always did that with a kind of, like, a super simple vernacular. And it wasn't even cinematic either. It was just a way of. I always say that Hemingway was the one that like taught me what subtext was, and then it was Judith Weston that taught me how subtext worked. And it was kind of the progress between the two. But Hemingway, I strongly, especially his short stories. But
and King too.
I mean,
King as well. King is so simple. Like he writes in very simple language. I felt because I when I read On the Writing, which was his amazing book. He actually is like, I write in very simple terms. If you want me to write with big words, here it goes. And he writes this like insane sentence that I had to look up every other word that he wrote. It's like, it doesn't help anybody. You got to do it simply. That's from my point of view, but I'd love to hear your opinion.
I mean, like recently I was rereading The Shining. And, it was early in his career and he was, honestly, I thought it was beautiful. But it was verbose. There were moments of high literary reference and like strong, like endless strands of metaphors and things like that, which is great. And I love that. And you could see he was experimenting with it because it kind of didn't sustain itself through the entire novel. You saw that like as the tension was building or as the story took over, he let go of a lot of the verbosity and turned into just kind of like let the story tell itself.
Right.
So it's, I mean, I think King, a lot of his appeal is kind of, he presents himself as the everyman, but I think deep down inside, he's got a Faulkner that's like screaming to rip out of his flesh.
Good point, sir. Good point.